All right. Hello again. For you, it may have been a day. For me, it's been about 12 seconds. So, this video, I'm going to preface. If you haven't seen the last video, I'm just going to quickly summarize that. Yes, I know I said I was going to upgrade my quality of my productions, but unfortunately, due to a lot of things, it's just made it harder for me, and I feel more comfortable currently with just picking up, hitting record, and getting things knocked out on my phone. Sorry the quality isn't as good as I would like it to be, but again, if you go reference that other video, you'll get more of an idea of how, if, and then why, where. Now, on top of that, I did record some videos on my channel, or I'm sorry, on my video camera that I was going to post on this channel, but do need to have some editing done for it. And one of the topics I talked about is how everybody is leaving YouTube right now. I actually think I did a very good job with that video, even though it is on the longer side. You know how it is. When I'm not holding a guitar, it's going to be a long video. So I'm going to hold off on that, and I'm not going to hash things out too much. But that does have a little bit of a tie-in with the video I'm putting out right now. So, in relation to the title of this video, censorship. Censorship has come a long way since it has been initially inducted, right? Now, we can go back and we can say ever since the 20s and the 30s, censorship has been ingrained with music simply by way of having segregation. You know, we had white radio stations and we had black radio stations. Censorship right there was if you're a black artist, you are basically never going to be on a white radio station. Granted, years go by, doors get knocked down, progress is made for society, and we destroy those barriers. But censorship kicked back up again in the 60s due to counterculture and its influence and rise on all mediums. And then in the 80s and 90s, censorship took on a whole new level. And we say we're not racist and we say that we've evolved as a society and all that shit, but unfortunately, a lot of it also stemmed from the same thing that it did from the 20s and 30s. Black music. Black music with the advent of R&B and hip hop now giving into rap and the rise of harder, heavier music, coupled with metal starting to kind of get more influential. So white musicians were also, or I would say white demographic music was also a turning point. Started kind of culminating in this 90s time period where all violent video games, all violent movies and TV shows, all violent and aggressive music was just kind of this stew pot. And all of these artists were basically either being restricted and couldn't actually release what they wanted to from their label, or some of them, because the 90s was a lawless land, if you all fucking remember it or lived through it, actually got bigger because of that. You know, one of the first examples I could think of, and I'm not diminishing his skill or capability, but Eminem. I remember when I was in elementary and middle school, Eminem was big because of just how raunchy and how hard it was to find his album because it was censored and over 18, all that nonsense. That was the thing that stood out to me the most. But there was also bands like I think Korn was another one where it had like a really raunchy album that it was super hard to find, and then like in elementary and middle school and everything like that, if you had that CD, you were the cool kid. And then I just imagine that the advertising at the time, because I can't clearly remember, I was fucking 10, 11 years old, however you old are during that time period. That had to help with their promotion and like getting them out there. But we now progress into the internet age, right? The 2000s. So Napster happened and it changed how people wanted to distribute music and how music really was going to be available in this open source age, as I would call it. And it got to a point where music, I feel, very quickly got desensitized, where you could virtually say or do anything. I don't know, maybe it was just where I grew up or the time period, but by middle school to high school, which was the 2003 to 2010 era, I don't really remember seeing or hearing or feeling like music was being as censored. I think it was just being out there because it was so hard. It was basically a hose. Once you fucking run the faucet, it's going. Like you can't stop it anymore. That's what the internet was able to do. But within the last few years, and I would say maybe 8 max, I've really seen a massive increase in censorship across the board. And I feel music is still being stifled by it, even if it's not the cause or the proponent of it, like it was in the 80s and 90s. So I want to talk about quickly kind of what jogged this, right? So there's a couple of scenarios and instances that have stood out to me. One I'll kind of reference really quick was to my video that you guys will hopefully eventually see about all these people leaving YouTube and kind of quitting, and why I'm, in all sincerity, kind of concerned about those people who are deciding to quit. What I addressed briefly was how some of them are leaving these channels or their channels because censorship, YouTube, right? Now, when I've been talking about censorship, I'm talking about basically bleeping out swear words. Censorship has evolved beyond that now. Censorship is simply just, I don't like what you're saying, so you're going to get blocked. Or if we're going to talk about YouTube specifically, age restriction. All right. I feel age restriction has done way more damage in censoring our social media and our media outputs in general, films, TV, comics, music, all of that, than all the bullshit that was going on in the 80s and 90s because Mortal Kombat had too much blood, or because fucking the Columbine massacres listened to metal music and played fucking Doom. Like, I just feel that if an artist, a content creator, we will call them, who is still an artist, and I talk more about that in the video, so kind of look out for that video. Content creators are artists, and their art is in jeopardy because when they are trying to upload something and they see a demonetization, an age restriction, or anything like that, that censorship has now completely ruined their message. And it's the same thing as just having a song on the radio and bleeping out a fucking swear word. Or having a mature label on your album, and now you have to somehow convince your parent to buy it for you because, your young virgin ears are gonna fucking explode, or whatever the hell the 90s nonsense was. That's one big thing there. The next thing is censorship on social media itself, right? So I'm gonna give another anecdote here. And I'm not going to devolve too much into it, just on the off chance I eventually do get big, and then you all try and Google this and it becomes this huge fucking thing. So my brother, he has been a musician longer than I have, and we played in some projects together. And I've done my best to help him be more successful because, unfortunately, just how the world works out, I played in a slightly more popular genre of music than he did, and I just had a couple of more opportunities come up my way that my music career took off a little bit faster and farther than his did, even though he'd been in the game longer. He had decided to challenge the status quo quite a few times, and one was through a band name that I'm not even going to say here, not for censorship, but simply because I just don't want to get into it, that already caused some strife. And then after some issues happened with that, it ended up really causing a backlash he couldn't recover from. And what he basically did was he took his persona, something I've talked about on channel before, about having a persona and versus living who you are as a person on stage. He took his persona online, and that persona did not gel well with PC culture of today. So with that being said, you think he would have learned his lesson, and he didn't. And then years later, it actually affected his job. Not through music, but because he also does comedy. So I feel that may be a personal thing that I'm projecting onto you guys, but I also feel it's an anecdote to tell you that I personally know people, and he's not the only one. I know musicians who have been censored online and have lost portions of their fan base because they don't have access to their social medias anymore, or they had to restructure their social media, right? That's still the same level of damage as bleeping out words and getting these stickers put on your album when you're a musician. Another thing that people aren't really considering is now, okay, I can't say what I want to say anymore in front of people. I can't say anything I want to say anymore on the internet. I'm going to get kickback. I'm going to get laughed at. I'm going to get canceled. Well, if you guys remember, right, we are artists. And what do artists normally do? They talk about the times, right? The artwork that we put out, the music that we create, is talking about the struggles of the day, and some of these things are no longer coming to mind because of that censorship. I think we've had a problem for a while, and this isn't entirely related to the video, but it is something I can bring up because it's something I've been feeling and does tie into this. For about 20 years now, music has reached a level of genericism where I feel there's really only three predominant genres of music. There is pop, and I would consider the whole rise of country pop, or country basically has become pop. There is rap, and then there is alternative. Alternative is basically just pop orientated or rap orientated. But music really just falls under those three categories now. And the reason is because of corporate culture, right? You have to play PC safe, generic music in the office space, on the radio. We have ride shares going on all the time. So Ubers and all that shit, if they are going to play music, they're probably just going to play it safe and play something on the top 10. Well, that's led to a rise of artists sounding exactly the same as everybody else. And that comes in waves. There are always times in music history where you have people who sound like generic ripoffs of others. You know, for first example that comes to my mind is the 60s and all the Beatles sound-alikes. Can't fucking tell you how many people try to capitalize on the Beatles just through emulation of their sound alone, right? But this time around, it's different because corporations like our fucking music industry, because it is a corporation and they're focused on selling a product, are now only truly seeking someone they can mold and shape to be this generic image. I've talked about this before, but social media presence, you know, like when you are an artist signed to a label, that is now a portion of your album sales, your analytics, your overall revenue. You need to do milestones on those things in order to have other things achieved for you, right? That's so fucked up, because what if someone doesn't have the personality to be on social media? You know, maybe they're standoffish. Maybe they have some views that are just not really safe to put on the internet anymore. You know, I could hear you already thinking, well, that's probably a good thing. We want to keep our world safe. We want to keep, you know, people feeling comfortable. Yes and no. Because our duty as artists, when we are creating things about today, and that's always what we've been doing from 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, these are snapshots, right? These are, you hear a song from one of those time periods and you feel the angst, you feel the safety, you feel the anxiety, whatever it is. That's what's so permeating about our art specifically, because we can transport people back to a time just through sound alone, and then they use their brains to fill in the gap. Yeah, we have lyrics and we're guiding them, but at the end of the day, it's truly them envisioning what that time period was like. So now, the last 20 years of music, all I'm hearing is just this weird rave dance club culture. And I mean, I have been to a couple of clubs, and yeah, I've tried to shoot my shot and make shit happen and things like that. And yeah, I'm as awkward and fucking retarded about it as you absolutely think I am. Yes, I know I just said the hard R word, so I think we already know where I'm kind of getting when it comes to censorship, right? I do not feel like that is a perfect representation of what's been going on the last 20 years. And you may be saying, well, there's other genres of music, there's other things going on. Yes, but even though we have streaming platforms and we have all these different ways of hearing and listening to music, what's popular still trumps all the other sources. And what's played on the radio, what's heard in shopping malls, in your corporate environments, and in your average day to day life is top 10 radio generic hits. That's it. And if they're not playing modern music today, they're playing the best of the best music from those other time periods. Which it's like, how many times do I need to hear the same fucking Bon Jovi song? How many times do I need to hear the same fucking Foo Fighters song? And I love Foo Fighters too, so it's like, man, it's kind of hard to say. But it's like, dude, I don't want to keep hearing Everlong all the time. So I've alluded a little bit to this, probably in my personality, in my videos, and what I was just saying a little bit ago. I truly feel we need to start breaking censorship down. All right. And I'm going to say something here. And I want you to bear with me as I explain who I am as a person and what I've done over the years. I have always had what people would consider an abrasive personality. I've been a very aggressive person. And unfortunately, even when I was younger, I was a very violent person. It took a long time for me to get humbled and figure out that's not a proper way to live. And then right when I got better at it, I joined the U.S. military. And then that just completely removed all of those stigmas. You have to be aggressive. You have to be violent. You have to be abrasive. It's the only way to survive being in the military. And in case you ever go to combat, because I was in a combat-related role, to fucking survive. All right. After I transitioned out of the military, I think I've done a relatively better job than most because I wasn't in that long, but also because I have a very strong core identity. And I feel short of being in the military for 20 plus years or going into some sort of special operations role, you really weren't going to beat me out of being me. My mom, my dad, my brother in school couldn't beat me out of me. So I really don't think the fucking military is going to do it either. Now, that's not to say that they didn't do their best and come fucking close, but it is what it is. And that's probably why I enjoyed only being in for a couple of years and got out the way I did. That shit aside, I also worked in a medical capacity as basically between a nursing assistant, a phlebotomist, a pharmacy technician, a medical receptionist, and a medical assistant. Basically, through the last few years, basically starting from 2019 onwards. And I've been in that customer service role. I've been in environments where I need to be more, can't even really say conservative due to the political alignment of things, where I have to be customer service based. Like I got to be very PC, generic, and safe. That's what I consider them. You can still be you, but I understand that there were repercussions if I swore or if I said something not kosher. And then I was also a teacher for the last year. And I taught kids ranging from 6 years old to 18 years old. I even also taught adults, and we had an adult band. But I'm going to tell you guys something, which is going to probably shock you with who I am and how I've described myself. I actually only got in trouble one time for swearing in front of kids. Now you're probably like, oh, well, one time is probably a lot. Well, yeah, but keep in mind who I am as a person, what I do, and also it was, I don't want to say for a justified reason, but these kids were getting on my nerves. And if you're a parent, I think you know exactly what that's like. So before you go ahead and call the kettle black, just realize like you get a couple of kids in a room who are all messing around with instruments and aren't paying attention or listening to you and just banging away at loud volumes. It's going to happen, right? But I did what I possibly could to keep things in an actual safe environment for them to grow and become better as musicians, and because they're still kids, be better as adults. But I'm going to tell you something. The school that I worked with and the curriculum it had songs talking about sex. It had songs where you swore. It had songs that I would genuinely actually consider being uncomfortable to have a child singing. I would freely admit that. And no one bats an eye. Why is that? These parents know these songs. My boss, my music director who chose these songs, knows the meanings of these things. But they go and they do it anyway. But if I swear, or if I say, heaven forbid, I'm not justifying this, but if I say something sexual and they hear it, it's immediate red flag. Like you're not even getting written up, you're getting terminated, right? So it's this weird dichotomy of what do we allow and what do we not allow, and I'm gonna kind of expand on that, right? So a few years ago, there was the halftime show with what's her fucking name? Uh, there was Jennifer Lopez, and she's in Call of Duty. How am I forgetting her name now? Anyway, that fucking that thought, legit. Like I'm gonna straight up fucking call it what it is. You have this massive over sexualization of women going on right now. And I'm not conservative in that environment whatsoever. I'm actually A plus okay with that shit. Just remember though, those are your daughters, those are your sisters, those are your mothers who are eventually going to get to that age, and they're just going to keep that mindset. And then you're not going to call me the bad guy because they were the ones giving it off. You know what I mean? But all that shit aside, you already have such an extreme show of hypersexualization on most forms of media. And then for the male side of things, what is one of the most positive things, or what is the most influential thing that's going on right now? Games, right? You have kids fucking playing Call of Duty. Shit, there's a fucking game that came out, 6 Days in Fallujah, where you're literally reliving some of the harshest, worstest fucking battles in the 21st century, part of even the 20th century. And kids are fucking glorifying playing this shit. I know people who were in that fucking battle. All right? Those people, some of them really struggle to have normal lives. But it's okay for them to have that awful experience be a fucking video game, a form of entertainment for little fucking Timmy. And then we complain that, oh, he's very violent in class. He's very aggressive and he swears and he does this and does that. And I'm not even going to touch the public educational system, but oh my God, the things that my kids are telling me they're being taught in school right now. I mean, there's shit where I'm like, well, I learned that in fucking like 3rd grade and you're in 7th grade. How are you learning that now? And then there's the turnaround where I'm like, really? In 4th grade, that's what they're fucking teaching you? I remember going through that shit in freshman year. Why is that important in 4th grade? You know? So I think we really need to reevaluate our role as artists and commenters on the times that we live in. And I think we really need to start saying, fuck you to censorship in all senses, right? Now, how you choose to go about that really does matter on the genre of music, the message you're trying to convey, and who your target audience is. All right. For example, one of the newest songs I wrote, I said the F word. And I can count on one hand how many songs I actually swear in. And most of them don't even have a hard swear. Hell damn bitch. Hell damn bitch. That's it. That's all I fucking say. And with how often I swear by videos, with how often I swear in my everyday vocab, that's very surprising. And I've had people tell me, it's like, how you just did a whole set without swearing. The second you step off stage, you're already swearing. It's who I am. It's my personality, all right? It is what it is. But when I'm using it for effect. I'm not saying the F word so I, have to struggle with censorship if it ever gets up, getting radio play. That's not what it was for. It was to hyper focus on a point of literally the line is every fucking thing just looks the same, and it's serious because in relation to the song everything always just looks the same, and you'll get that when you guys hear the song because I'm going to be recording it shortly. So that's a very safe thing to kind of do, right, considering all the other topics that I was going on about. But it doesn't matter. Maybe I do want to write a song talking about how all women today seem like fucking hypersexualized thoughts. Maybe I want to fucking write a song about how all these fucking boys are growing up to want to be fucking mass murderers and fucking, just slap an American flag on your fucking sleeve so it's okay. I may not be the person to do it. Maybe you are going to want to be the person to do it. Maybe your message is critical, but it's not going to get out there because anytime we open our mouths to say something, we're the fucking bad guys. And I think we need to look at a very peculiar time in history, the 60s, and counterculture, and realize it's actually okay to be the bad guy. Because look what happened. The counterculture won. America shifted so much from the few years of the 60s influence. Granted, the 80s had a little bit of the 50s resurgence, but ebb and flow, ebb and flow. There are times, there are places that actions are going to have long-standing impacts, and there are times where it's just going to get fucking swam over. It is what it is, and we can't always choose when it's going to happen. All I want is to bring to mind the issues that censorship have today, and then the platforms that you're going to have struggles with when you release these things. You know, I don't want to get demonetized. I don't want to get censored. I don't want to hold back the things that I truly believe in and want to say. But I do feel that there is a courtesy that we have forgotten and we need to relearn. All right. I have some personal views, which I'll let you extrapolate as to what they are, that they don't need to be discussed. There's no reason to. My beliefs do not affect others. And at the end of the day, whether I did go across and serve, and fight in another country or not is irrelevant. I wrote my name on a blank check payable to the U.S. up to and including my life from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I would give my life willingly so that you have personal freedoms to do, be, say, act, do whatever it is you want to be, who, how, blah, 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 all that word salad. And it doesn't matter if I agree with it. It doesn't matter if I believe that it's something you should do. I don't think it fucking matters at all if you want to go and influence and spread that awareness to others, because it's the person and the parent of some of these people's jobs to help guide and shape who they are supposed to be and what they're supposed to believe. Don't let media, teachers, friends influence who the fuck you are. You decide who you are. And your music needs to reflect that as well. Do not become a slave to corporation, generic, safe, PC mentality. Because that could be what restricts you from actually getting somewhere. Maybe we really do just need someone who can rise up and say, fuck you, fuck that, fuck this. But if you are only worried about getting the message out there and not what your message is, censorship's won. And I'm going to take a small break from my music side of things and put on my overall personality for a second. If you haven't read the book 1984, just do a quick Google search of it. Do a quick recap and summarize. We are rapidly approaching something that is going to change how human civilization operates from that time onward. Call it a war, call it a revolution, whatever it is and however it is going to happen. But I can tell you right now, this censorship is a global phenomenon. And I do not see any benefits to not being able to say what you feel in here without any repercussions, especially from a government entity coming down on you. I think if we don't start making a stance and truly meaning what we say now, we may never actually have the chance again. And I sincerely believe that. Putting the music personality back in, how does that relate to what I'm talking about? If we want to keep music as awesome as it has been, because I am not one of those doomers who is all like, oh, music sucks. Well, a lot of music does suck. But you know what? There's way more music out there than there was 20 years ago. There's more ways to get that music. I would like to hear artists who are challenging the status quo, because, again, that's another thing that I just haven't heard, that I remember from my childhood in the 90s, right? There were artists pushing the envelope. There were artists, there was, this was even before my time, but there was Dee Snider and Twisted Sister who went to a fucking congressional hearing to basically tell Congress, go fuck yourself. It's the parents' responsibility. And if they're not going to give a shit about what their kids are doing, don't fucking blame me. This music is for everyone. If the kids want to believe in this message, awesome. But if the parents don't like that their kids do believe in it, it's their fucking problem. Who's doing that today? I'm actually asking. If you know an artist, whether big mainstream or on the smaller scale, who is actively fighting censorship, or do you that you feel is in a capacity to do that, let me know. I'd like to know more about them. Even if I don't like their music, I would like to know that there are people out there who are willing to challenge that status quo. And I may rise to that occasion myself. It just depends on what my message is. And despite all of the things that I've said about my personality, I actually am more of a hippie than anything. I really do believe in love and peace and equity and equality for all. Like, I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to be successful. The music that I put out is not supposed to make people question their lives and their decisions. It's supposed to just help them reflect on those decisions. So I may not be the best person to do it, but I assure you, if it comes down to it and censorship really starts fucking tightening the news, I will go out of my way to write some fucking songs, man. Like, gaff. I am almost ready and willing to be a sacrificial lamb in that context. But this video has gone on long enough. I think I've given you guys a bit of an idea of what to look for, what to think about. Don't be afraid, and if the worst case does happen, and you do get canceled, that's the thing about today, right? 5-10 years from now, you can start again. Because unfortunately, human society today, here today, gone tomorrow. No one remembers anything. No one cares about anything. If you are worried that you're going to never be able to be a successful artist again because you got censored off the internet, I think that's them admitting that you're weak and you don't have the strength to carry on. I think we need a little bit of adversity in our life. And I'm saying that having had a lot of adversity when it came to my musical career, considering I got blacklisted in my home state. But I still found a way. And I'm still, even though it took a little while, I'm still motivated because here I am doing these videos to try and inspire and motivate you guys to do it too. So I'll leave it on that. I know this video has probably been a mixed bag of emotions. Let me know what you all think. This one, more than some of my other videos, I really want some Discord on because I don't know if I'm the only one who's noticing this, but I feel like everyone's vaguely aware of it. And who knows, maybe a couple of other music YouTubers or musicians in general will hear this message and just be like, you know what? Yeah, let's see if we can test these boundaries. And that's all it needs to start. Test and see where we can go. Because I don't want music to suffer, man. I feel we are so close to this musical renaissance that I've talked about in other videos. But if that censorship happens, we're going to lose so many great people who could have helped contribute to something bigger. So, yeah. I think that kind of sums it all up. I'm going to stack up another video and hopefully knock it out in one take because I'm running low on time and battery. So, thank you all very much. I greatly appreciate it. Please leave some messages down and let me know if I'm out of my fucking mind or if I'm speaking some truths. I'd appreciate it. Take care, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you.